today? Yeah, he is. Okay, at least we know that. I mean, right off the rip, boom. Bearish S&T. Which means this is technically our target. But we are still bullish on the 1 hour time frame. So this is 4-hour highs. On the 1 hour, ooh, okay, we have all this low resistance liquidity. Where's that gap? Okay, so we'll see. But we might as well put the fib extension anyways. So hourly is bearish, 4 hour is bullish. Yeah, honestly, these are kind of the draws for the day, in my opinion. We'll just have to see what happens, though. 8:30. What was our 8:30 a.m. news? So this is also data highs. I gotta shit. what is that, news? Alright, so we just came out, swept all these lows. Kind of saw that, kind of expected. But, I mean, there's really nowhere else for me to go except long. Like, I wouldn't want to take any other trade except going long. Like, at all. And so, because of that, let us mark out the imbalance that we have here. So, because of that, that's what I see. That's what I see. So, yeah, we just took out all these low resistance lows. I mean, it's long or you don't take a trade. And we would take it on MNQ because this is the more bearish index, which means we would need confirmation from ES that we're going higher before we even take a trade on NQ. Right? Right. Here we go. See what we get from here. We just took out Asian lows, which means hopefully we get some rotations up. Now right now we just sit on our hands. If it comes 10 a.m., we're kind of just gonna watch and see what happens. Honestly, I need my other computer for this. Okay. We got motion. We have motion. Okay, well, if ES is giving us an entry model, fuck it. Okay, so 4. Okay, now we just need a continuation confluent for just kind of as high as we want to go for that.
Expand your choices. with index options like SPX, XSP, and VIX, so you can discover new opportunities, even in uncertain markets. Life is better with options. Your investments could be too.
Yo, can we get like a breakdown and then move up? Fuck. Yo. Need a breakdown. What the fuck are they doing? Why is it late? Okay. Nah. You're actually bugging.
This committee will come to order.
Whoa, what's that?
Good morning to everyone. Ms. Kevin Worst, thank you for being with us today. We're excited about the opportunity to discuss America's economy with you. This is really about the kitchen table. People across our country want to have confidence in our institutions that your nomination goes in the direction of reinforcing why they should have.
From launching your website with Base 44. Since the beginning of the internet, there's never been such a fun, fast, and intelligent way to launch.
Americans' ability to buy groceries, whether or not they can afford a home, how far their paycheck goes, especially at the end of the month. And in South Carolina, I hear all the time how families are working hard, doing everything right, and still feeling squeezed. Bidenomics made prices go up, and paychecks have not kept pace. Too many parents are stretching every single dollar they have just to cover the basics. And too many workers are wondering when the economy will start to feel stronger at their kitchen table, not just on paper. Congress, President Trump, and his administration are focusing on fixing the disastrous mistakes of Bidenomics
bullish because he dabbed up two black guys. Genuinely, bro, that's probably the most bullish thing.
Through efforts like the Working Families Tax Cut Bill, we are helping Americans get more of their hard-earned money. Compared to the average tax return under President Biden over 4 years, the average return is up 24% since then. Just in the last year, the average tax return is now around $3,400, an 11% increase, because President Trump and his leadership decided to focus on hardworking Americans who are struggling to make ends meet, paycheck.
Should have just
paycheck.
longed that bit.
Nearly half the country, half the returns filed in 2026 claimed either a deduction for tipped income, overtime earnings, senior citizens, or auto loan interest for major parts of the working family's tax cut bill that every single person on this dais to the right voted for. Under President Trump's leadership, Americans are keeping more of their hard-earned money, about $300 more every month. It is necessary that Congress continues to put money back in the hands of everyday Americans, and that is why it is important. I want to be clear here. That is why it is important that we confirm Kevin Warsh to be the Federal Reserve Chair. The Federal Reserve has a clear dual mandate to promote stable prices and maximum employment. The
We know
policies
that.
of the Fed therefore directly affect Americans' cost of living and their income. And when the Fed is successful in fulfilling its dual mandate, affordability improves, with Americans taking home more money and paying less for everyday necessities. Unfortunately, in recent years, the Fed has faced real challenges. There have been questions about its decisions, its focus, and whether it has engaged in issues far outside its jurisdiction. Under the Biden administration, the Federal Reserve appeared to move with the political winds, raising real concerns about politics and weaponizing one of the most powerful weapons we have for good economically, the entire Federal Reserve system. For example, under the Biden administration, the Fed pushed climate-focused initiatives only to reverse that climate agenda as soon as President Trump took office. When actions appear to shift political priorities, it can undermine confidence in the independence of this great institution. An independent Federal Reserve is essential to achieving its mission. Markets depend on it. Families depend on it, and that independence must be protected. The American people expect the Federal Reserve to stay focused on the economy, not politics. Today's hearing is an opportunity to refocus the Federal Reserve on its dual mandate to increase economic stability and affordability for everyday Americans. Kevin Warsh is battle tested and brings the necessary experience from his time as a Federal Reserve governor during the Great Recession. During his first term as governor, he helped our economy through the crisis and restored faith in the economy. He has seen the economy in its darkest days and understands how economic decisions affect job growth, our economy, and the opportunities that we have come to love as Americans. We want every citizen in this country to have a chance to live their version of the American dream. And that means having our private sector economy run as strong as possible, which means your focus has to be on everyday Americans and not politicians, not the political whims, but on everyday Americans who desperately want to restore their confidence in our institutions. Today, this committee will examine the plans Mr. Warsh has for his return to the Fed, this time as chair, and how he plans to lead the institution at a critical moment to deliver lower costs and real relief for working families. For folks back home in the great state of South Carolina and across the country, the goal is simple. They want lower costs and more opportunities. The Federal Reserve plays a key role in bringing prices down and helping wages go up. Confirming Kevin Warsh will make sure that affordability is at the center of our economic agenda. Senator Warren is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I just want to start by saying one of our members lost a child yesterday, and I know our hearts go out to Mark Warner and his family, and that is true on both sides of the aisle. And that is true on both sides of the aisle. That we may disagree on policies, and we may do so vigorously, but as one, and we are praying for them.
Ranking Member, I think it'd be appropriate for us to take a few seconds of silence on his behalf. 36 years old, but one thing you don't want to do as a parent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate all you do. So, we should not be having this hearing today. And here's the context. First, over the past year, President Trump has racked up one economic failure after another, and Americans know that. Consumer sentiment just hit its lowest level on record ever. Inflation is rising, and families are paying more for groceries, more for healthcare, more for utilities, more for housing, all thanks to Trump's chaotic tariffs and one big beautiful bill. And now his war with Iran is putting American troops in harm's way and further driving up the cost of nearly everything here at home. Second, in your testimony, you said it's perfectly fine for elected officials to state their views on interest rates. But that is not what Donald Trump is doing. The president has repeatedly and illegally attempted to take over the Fed. His bogus attacks on Governor Lisa Cook and Chair Powell were designed to threaten all the members of the Fed, to do Trump's bidding and open more spots for Trump flunkies. Why try to end the independence of the Fed? Because Trump's economic failures are causing him political problems, and he wants the Fed to use this is his last chance to do that before the November elections. Having a sock puppet in charge of the Fed would also give the president access to the Fed's powerful authorities to enrich himself, his family, and his Wall Street buddies. It could mean granting special accounts to his family's
Oh my god, holy shit.
bailouts to his friends on
What the
Wall
fuck is
Street who
this?
get into trouble. In other words, a Fed under Donald Trump's control creates more opportunities for Trump's corruption. Third, the nominee before us today, Kevin Warsh, is uniquely ill-suited for the job as Fed chair. In our meeting last week, we discussed the 2008 financial crash, where 8 million people lost their jobs, 10 million people lost their homes, and millions more
Brother, what are we
Giant
doing?
banks, however, got hundreds
How
of
the fuck are you
billions of
supposed to
dollars
take a
in
trade?
Mr. Warsh was a Fed governor from 2006 to 2011. That's before, during, and after the crash. And he said to me that he has no regrets about anything he did. So let's take a deeper dive into Mr. Warsh's record.
What the fuck are you
Years
doing?
leading up to the 2008 financial crisis, he was an enthusiastic cheerleader for credit default swaps and complex securitizations. He dismissed repeated and increasingly urgent concerns from housing advocates across the country regarding subprime mortgages. He refused to use the Fed's authorities to address the risks that were building in the financial system. When the crisis hit and the economy blew up, Warsh took on the job of Wall Street's
Oh shit, we
personal
don't need to do that.
liaison on the Fed board. He was quick to respond to concerns from Wall Street CEOs, and he worked tirelessly to arrange multi-billion-dollar bailouts for them with nothing for American families. No regrets, he says. No regrets. After the crash, most people on the Fed saw millions of Americans unemployed. People who'd lost their homes and said, now might be a good time to lower rates and make the cost of borrowing cheaper for businesses to avoid more layoffs and make it cheaper for Americans who are worried about paying their mortgages or their credit cards. But not Mr. Warsh.
Yo,
Nope.
how is
He wanted
that
to
bullish?
keep
What the
interest rates
fuck?
high. And he sang the same song for more than a decade, even as the economy struggled. When the job of Fed chair became available during Trump's first term as president, Warsh held on to his high interest rate inflation hawk views, and Trump passed him by. Regretful, he soon reversed course and called for the Fed to pause interest rate hikes. Then, once Trump left office, Mr. Warsh flipped again and was even criticizing the Fed for cutting rates in the fall of 2024. But as soon as Donald Trump became president a second time, Warsh reversed himself once more and began shouting from the rooftops about how the Fed should cut interest rates. Evidently, he learned his lesson. This time around, he sucked up to Donald Trump to save his dream job. Mr. Chairman, last week, every single Democratic member of this committee asked that you postpone this hearing and instead conduct oversight on the president's role in directing bogus criminal probes into Chair Powell and Governor Crickett. The Senate should not be aiding and abetting Donald Trump's illegal takeover of the Fed by installing his chosen sock puppet as chair. It's an invitation for corruption and for economic catastrophe. We have the power to stop it, and we should be using that power. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, there you have it. I'll just say it is interesting that we're going to hear from Senator David Clark in his introduction of Kevin Warsh, who was last time unanimously confirmed by the United States Senate.
Holy fuck, can we...
Unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Dave, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Warren, distinguished colleagues. It's really a great honor to introduce my friend Kevin Warsh and welcome him to today. Kevin has been a friend for many years. Winston Churchill observed that for great leaders there comes, and I quote, a special moment where they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing.
Finally, a 5-minute retrace. Holy fuck, we needed this shit.
That moment finds them unprepared for that which would have been their finest hour. Colleagues, I'm here today to assure you, as someone who knows Kevin and who knows this institution, that Kevin Warsh could not be more prepared for this, his finest hour. There's no one more fitting, no one more qualified to face this consequential moment as the 17th chair of the Federal Reserve. Now, I'm not going to belabor Kevin's academic and professional record. They speak for themselves. Instead, I'd like to tell you about a man who Dina and I worked with decades ago.
The fuck is happening, bro? We're just talking a bunch of BS.
President George W. Bush famously appointed Kevin to the Federal Reserve in 2006 when Kevin was just 35. He was the youngest appointed board member in history. But President Bush saw in Kevin what I believe you will see in him with your questions today. Wisdom that belied his age, now deepened by experience. A moral clarity even in the most turbulent of times. A sharp and independent intellect, further strengthened by decades immersed in unforgiving global financial markets. And a deep, honest understanding of how the decisions made in the marble hallways of Washington affect the lives of hardworking Americans. Now I, unlike many on this committee, have seen these virtues on display across decades of friendship. I first met Kevin in the late 1990s when he and my younger brother were junior associates on Wall Street. And a decade later, we served together in the crucible of of the global financial crisis, I, as the Undersecretary of Treasury for International Affairs, and Kevin on the Fed board. For nearly 2 years, we worked hand in hand to contain the damage and navigate the country through the crisis. And I know that then Chairman Ben Bernanke relied heavily on Kevin during those turbulent times, and I did too. And I've continued to seek his counsel regularly in the years since. Now, Kevin came to Washington all those years ago as an outsider, an idealistic young man determined to serve his country, one who has succeeded beyond all expectations. And he returns today as the ideal candidate to lead the Fed at this most crucial juncture. If confirmed, Kevin will inherit a Federal Reserve in need of repair and confronting serious uncertainty. An overextended balance sheet, a poor record on inflation, and a weak understanding of the profound opportunities offered in today's economy. He is uniquely suited to confront these challenges. He brings a reformer's heart. He will shake up a stagnant institution at a time when change is sorely needed. He possesses a deep understanding of markets and is trusted by leaders across the financial industry. But he equally understands the real economy. Born and raised in upstate New York, he knows from personal experience how the actions of the
Damn, we're
Fed
really about to inverse this
change the
5-minute
lives
gap,
of
huh?
working families. It's no small thing. It's no small thing to know firsthand how an increase in gas prices or mortgage rates or an uptick in unemployment affect everyday Americans. The Federal Reserve must not be ruled by pointy-head economists poring over outdated models and reams of market data. It needs a leader. It needs a leader who understands that the Fed's mandate of stable prices and maximum employment serves a higher purpose, the preservation of the American dream. Now, colleagues, Kevin Warsh has lived the American dream. I know in my heart he will always fight to keep that dream alive for all Americans. He is the right man for this pivotal moment. And
Damn, we really broke structure to the downside. The fuck are we gonna do?
And support his speedy confirmation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. I will now swear in the nominee. Will you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Do you agree to appear and testify before any duly constituted committee of the Senate? You may sit down. Your written statement will be made part of the record in its entirety. Please keep your oral comments to 5 minutes. Mr. Warsh, you're now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your consideration today. I've known you for quite a while, and I certainly appreciate the many courtesies you've given me, not just since the President's nomination, but long before. It's an honor to be with you, with Ranking Member Ward, and with the entire committee. I'm deeply grateful to President Trump for asking me to take on this public trust, because that's what it is, a public trust. The President believes that real economic growth in the U.S. and real take-home pay will accelerate. I share the President's confidence in our country and its people. America's economic growth potential is rising as we sit here today. I'm also especially happy that my wife Jane is here. She's been with me for many of the most important moments in my life. I'm grateful for her love and her personal accomplishments.
Smart founders know something most people miss. Get your domain name even if you're not ready to launch your business. With Wix, you can grab yours now and then get to work. Here's why it matters. Back in 2019, I had this killer business idea, but I delayed getting the domain name because I wasn't ready. That was a huge mistake. Someone else grabbed it, built the exact same business I planned, and now they're making all the money that I could have been making. And that's why I'm sharing this. Locking down your domain name
they were paying great attention to this hearing 20 years ago. They're no longer with us. But I was always proud of them and the values they taught me. And I hope they'd be proud of me. We start today with a note of broad agreement, even though we might have heard different narratives at the outset of this hearing. This is a time of great consequence for the nation's economy. As a former Fed governor and friend or colleague of the last 5 Fed chiefs, from whom I've learned plenty of lessons, I'm particularly alert to the challenges and opportunities confronting the institution that I cherish, the Federal Reserve. To the President, to the Congress, the nation, I owe my best judgment and my most faithful efforts in serving the mission that you in Congress assigned to the Federal Reserve, including full employment and stable prices. The American people are counting on the Fed to deliver on its commitments, perhaps now more than ever. The real highlights of my life are not on my resume, as Senator McCormick said. They include the individuals with whom I worked and from whom I learned. I graduated from high school in upstate New York. I had some exceptional teachers there and some brilliant classmates. I've learned we're lucky in life if we start out with good influences in learning and in character. A public school education gave me both of these, and I'm grateful. I made my way to Stanford and found myself in the company of some of the most highly accomplished economists and policymakers. George Shultz, former Secretary of State and Treasury, was among the great patriots at the Hoover Institution, who I came to know as a teacher, mentor, and friend. He passed away right after COVID at age 100, but I'm still feeling with him. I could not have imagined a better formative experience than working from and learning from folks like him. I could tell you about all the things I learned, but maybe the most important was to be around people completely devoted to the ideas and ideals of our country. Silicon Valley in the early 90s, another fitting backdrop for all the things we confront today. I found myself in the right place.
Yo, y'all funny as fuck, bro. Look at I'm watching the testimony or whatever, and you guys gotta watch this chat. Like, bro, everyone's just like, no one cares, no one. Like, sell, like. Bro, this shit's funny as fuck. I'm waiting for some sort of entry. It is what it is. I don't know what the fuck's happening. I just want to know, do we long that bitch or do we short that bitch? And right now, it's looking like shorts.
I should say my boss at the Hoover Institution. I doubt I would be sitting here today as the President's Fed Chairman nominee. But I'm certain of one thing. Absent their tutelage, absent their example, I would not be as prepared for the urgent, mission-critical task at hand. In between these bookend experiences, I served quite a while ago as a governor at the Federal Reserve. At the onset of the financial crisis. As Senator Warren said, our central bank played an indispensable role, and we benefited enormously from the credibility that our predecessors had built up and passed down to us, governors of the Fed at the time. In these unusual and exigent circumstances, I saw the Fed and its people at their very best. But I also witnessed an institution that was tempted to play a larger role in the economy and society. So let me be very clear. Monetary policy independence is essential. Monetary policy makers must act in the nation's interest. Their decisions the product of rigor, deliberation, and unclouded decision-making. And as Senator Warren said, I do not believe that independence of monetary policy is threatened when elected officials state their views on rates. Fed independence is up to the Fed. That has 3 implications. First, Congress is tasked with the mission to ensure price stability. Inflation is the Fed's choice. Second, Fed independence is at its peak in the conduct of monetary policy. And third, as the chairman said, the Fed must stay in its lane. I'm committed to ensuring that the conduct of monetary policy remains strictly independent. Equally committed to work with the administration and Congress on non-monetary matters that are part of the Fed's remit, and I commit myself to accountability. Finally, I'll just say this, Mr. Chairman. Milton Friedman had a phrase that always stayed with me. He always worried about government officials that lured and hung around with what he called the tyranny of the status quo. Status quo practices and policies are especially harmful when the world is changing this fast. If confirmed as chairman, I will be faithful to the Constitution, to the Federal Reserve Act, and to the very best of the Fed's traditions. I believe a reform-oriented Fed can make a real difference to the American people, and if confirmed, I will seek to create an environment in which the best people do their best work. Candor and goodwill will go a long way in pursuing those objectives.
Okay, we
I
could
suspect
Loki
this
need a
year,
break on
Mr.
both.
Chairman, will put us to the test. It's a real privilege to be
Thanks,
here.
sir. I will say that we typically stick to a 5-minute opening comments. I would encourage all of us to stick with our 5 minutes as it relates to our question and answers. We have full attendance today, and it's going to be really important for us to stick as closely to the 5 minutes as possible. If we go over by much, you'll hear me, which is an indication that you're already over, and I'll do my very best to keep us on time. Kevin, there are so many questions to talk to you about, to ask you about, to be honest with you. I just want to name a couple of them, and we'll look forward to hearing more on these topics. I will not have enough time to delve into some of the most important issues facing our country. I'll take 2 of those issues and focus my time. I'm sure my colleagues on either side will have a conversation with you and ask questions about AI. The AI future is going to have massive impact on where we go as a nation. It's got a massive impact on your dual mandate as it relates to full employment.
Honored to be with you, with Ranking Member Warren, and with the entire committee. I'm deeply grateful to President Trump for asking me to take on this public trust.
The fuck? I want to be live.
Yeah, but nearly a $7 trillion balance sheet at the Federal Reserve. Too much attention has been paid to your balance sheet, and not enough attention has been paid to the nation's balance sheet. I think it's really important for us to dig into that issue as well. Digital assets, the future of finance in the world seems to have a major component of it being digital assets. The market structure legislation we don't want your comment on, but the important role of the blockchain in the future is another really important part of the future of our economy. I will spend some time talking about affordability and the importance of the independence of the Fed. One of the things I've appreciated about your previous comments is the importance that you have placed on the dual mandate, stable prices, which typically comes through the form of interest rate changes, as well as promoting maximum employment. I think those 2 will become more challenging in the current environment. One, obviously, the second one being the AI and the future of full employment. You criticized the Federal Reserve for getting too big, mismanaging inflation. I'm sure you know the definition of transitory, so I won't ask you, but I got a feeling you know.
We need a break on NQ.
Compromising the independence of the Fed. I think we should spend more time on finance, less time on climate change, on politics, on who is or who's not in charge. I think you would agree on those issues, though I will not ask you. I will ask you, however, that under your leadership, how will you steer the Federal Reserve to address the real life issues of affordability is my first question. And my second question will be about how do you make sure that the Federal Reserve stays out of the lane of external influences?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's probably no more pressing question than the cost of living. We know at the Federal Reserve that price stability was an objective that you and your colleagues gave to the Fed. So when, over the course of the last several years, especially after COVID, when prices went up to the tune of 25 to 35% for virtually all deciles of the American people, that's an indication that the Fed missed its mark. And we are still dealing with the legacy of the policy errors in 2021 and 2022. Once you let inflation take hold in the economy, it's more expensive and harder to bring it down. And so the fatal policy error going back 4 or 5 years is still a legacy that we're dealing with. We need, in my judgment, fundamental policy reforms to fix it. And while it's true that inflation is less problematic, meaning the rate of change in prices is less severe than it was some years ago, hardworking Americans are no doubt feeling it. I think that means a regime change in the conduct of policy. I think that means a different new inflation framework. I look forward to working with my colleagues at the Fed, if confirmed, to achieve that. I think it means, as you suggested, using tools differently. The Fed has an interest rate tool and a balance sheet tool. My view is the interest rate tool gets in the cracks. It's fairer. The balance sheet tool disproportionately helps those with financial assets. The interest rate tool hits the entire economy. So we need a new framework, new tools, and I'd also say, Mr. Chairman, new communications. And part of the reason why, after making a mistake in 2021 and 22, the mistake was compounded, is the Fed gives its forward guidance. The Fed tells the whole
like,
world
how can we
what
take a
their
trade?
doubts about
NQ has
what
no
their
clue where the
forecasts
fuck
are.
it wants to go.
Well, the Fed's human. Then they hold on to those forecasts.
Like, we're
longer
literally
than they
waiting for
should.
NQ to
I
make
think
some
if
sort of
the Fed
move. We
were
either
to
break or we
wait
go
until
up.
it gets into a meeting before making a decision, that incremental deliberation can keep the central bank from compounding its errors. I think these are big changes that are needed, and if confirmed, I look forward to doing it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Fed has been plagued by deeply disturbing ethics scandals in recent years involving at least 6 Fed officials. So it's critical that the next chair have no financial conflict.
We all want more progress, more wins. But what we're really chasing is more life. Add more life to your ears. Whoop, the official fitness wearable of the PGA Tour.
EFS LLC invest in any companies affiliated with President Trump or his family. Companies that have facilitated money laundering, Chinese-controlled companies, or financing vehicles established by Jeffrey Epstein.
Senator Warren, thank you. So let me first share a point of agreement with you. The Fed has 2 tools. One is its monetary policy, and the second is its credibility. And the scandals that you talked about, the ethics problems you talked about, went to the core of the credibility that has hurt the
Could you
Fed.
answer my question, please? I asked. You have $100 million in undisclosed assets. And what I'm asking is, are any of those with this outfit that invests in companies affiliated with President Trump or his family, companies that have facilitated money laundering, Chinese-controlled companies, or financing vehicles set up by Jeffrey Epstein? It's a yes or no question.
Senator, I have worked tirelessly with the ethics officials at the Office of Government
Yes,
Ethics.
and you have not
Come to an
revealed
ethics agreement
$100
with them
million
and
in
have
assets.
agreed, Senator, to sell all of
That's
my
not
financial
my
assets,
question. Mr. Warren,
including
are
your
you
Duquesne assets.
refusing to tell us if you have investments, for example, in vehicles set up to advance Jeffrey Epstein? Is that what you're telling us? You just won't tell us?
Senator, what I'm telling you is that those assets that you represent as Juggernaut will be sold if I'm
All right,
confirmed
let me
before I take
follow up.
office and sign the oath of
Let me
office.
follow up on that. Will you at least disclose how you plan to disclose and divest these secret assets? I'm sure you understand that the public might question your motives if, for example, billionaire Stanley Druckenmiller, who you honored in your opening statement, and who makes a living guessing what the Fed will do next, cuts you a massive check for $100 million as you take the oath of office to become the new Federal Reserve Chair.
Senator, as you know, it sounds like your fight might not be with me, but the Office of Government Ethics. I have come to full agreement with them and have agreed to divest all of those assets,
I'm asking you a
especially
very
those that you
straightforward
referenced
question,
before I
Mr.
take the
Ward,
oath of office.
and that is, will you disclose how you divest those assets, or will you just collect the check for $100 million from someone whose whole business is betting on what the Fed will do?
As I said to the ethics officials at the Federal Reserve and the Office of Government Ethics,
I'll take that as a
I would
no
be
as well.
redeeming my
So
assets
Donald
before I
Trump
take
has made
office.
clear that he does not want an independent Fed. In fact, he has said, and I quote, "Anybody that disagrees with me will never be Fed chairman." And he's made clear that you are his sock puppet, saying last week that interest rates will drop, quote, "when Kevin gets in." Yeah, I think they do. Not when economic conditions change, we'll get lower rates. Not when the economy needs it. Nope. He said, when my guy Kevin Warsh is in there, we'll get the interest rates that Donald Trump, wants. So independence takes courage. Let's check out your independence and your courage. We'll start easy. Mr. Warsh, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
We try to keep politics, if I'm confirmed, out of the federal.
I'm just asking a factual question. I need to know, I need to measure. It's your independence and your courage.
Senator, I believe that this body certified that election many years ago.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, did Donald Trump lose in 2020?
And I'm suggesting you in
I'm
2020 the
suggesting
Fed
you
made
can't answer that.
your huge inflation problem, and you certified the election.
So let me ask you
Politics
another
out of
question.
monetary policy.
In our meeting, you
monetary
said
policy
you
out of
would
politics.
be independent because you're quote a tough guy. Those were your words, tough guy. And you will be able to stand up to President Trump. So let's try it again. Name one aspect of President Trump's economic agenda with which you disagree.
Well, Senator, the Federal Reserve in recent years has wandered outside of its remit, wandered into other
I'm asking
areas.
for something
That's
you
not something
disagree
I'm prepared
with
to
Donald
do.
Trump on.
If I'm
Just
confirmed,
one
the Federal
one
Reserve should stay in
economic
its
issue.
lane.
Just one little place where you disagree with Donald
Well, I
Trump.
do have a disagreement, actually, Senator, with the president. I think even this morning, he said that he thought I was out of central casting. I think central casting, I'd look older, grayer, maybe show up here with a cigar of sorts.
Quite adorable. But you know, we need a Fed chair who is independent. That's the only way we preserve the independence
I
of
agree.
the Federal Reserve. If you can't answer these questions, you don't have the courage and you don't have the independence.
I agree
Thank
with you on
you, Mr.
independence, Senator.
Senator Rounds.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Warsh, first of all, welcome. And I appreciated the opportunity to visit with you personally in the office. I agree with you, and I think Fed independence is critical. And I think that's an item that you and I agree on wholeheartedly. I want to take an opportunity just to kind of perhaps give you an opportunity to respond. I know that the ranking member had a number of items that she expressed concerns with. I'd like to give you an opportunity to just kind of work this way through, and let me just ask you a few questions, and I'll allow you to take the time to fully answer the questions. As I understand, Mr. Warsh, you worked with the career ethics professionals at the Office of Government Ethics and at the Fed to come to an agreement in terms of your dissolution of some of the assets that you as a businessman have. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator, that is correct. I worked with the Fed ethics officials first, answered all of their questions, then with the career professionals, the Office of Government Ethics, answered all of their questions, and then they wrote up an ethics agreement, which is part of the public record. But because I agree with Senator Warren on the ethical questions that have been raised over the last several years by several people that were members of the FOMC, so that there's no question about my independence, no question about the clarity of my financial record, I agreed to divest virtually all of my financial assets, the large majority of which will be divested before I raise my right hand and am sworn into office if confirmed by this body. So I've gone above and beyond, not for any other special reason other than the Fed needs to reestablish its credibility, because the conduct of policy depends on it.
So, let me just, for the record, the agreement which you have signed clearly states that you have agreed to divest your assets that are in question within 90 days of confirmation if you have not already divested it. That is correct.
Yes, Senator, and in fact, the large majority of those assets will be divested before I am sworn into office if confirmed.
Thank you. The career ethics professionals were the ones that basically had sent your signed paperwork to this committee's chief clerk. I really question whether or not they would have done that if they did not come to the ethics agreement with you in the first place, correct?
Yes, I presume that's right. We had a very good working relationship, and I'm happy to be sitting after the divestiture and cash or T-bills or whatever is the permitted asset so we can get back to the business of fixing the Fed, reforming an institution that has lost its way a bit, that has missed the mark. As Chairman Scott said at the outset, this inflation risk is still something that's being talked about around kitchen tables and boardrooms. My preferred definition of stable prices is a little different than most academics. I believe that price stability should be a change in prices such that no one's talking about it. That's an old-fashioned definition, but I think it's still valid. The sooner that we can reform the institution with my colleagues if confirmed, the sooner we can ensure price stability, and we can have a new set of leaders atop the institution with high, credible, ethical standards to return the Fed to what it should be. The independence that both Chairman Scott and Senator Warren mentioned, critically important. But independence has to be earned, and it's earned by delivering on the promises, the commitments that the Fed has made. And as the Fed hasn't delivered on those promises, we shouldn't be surprised that we hear politics that are entering the room at the Fed. We need to get the politics out of it so the Fed can focus on its day job, deliver on full employment and stable prices.
It's true that people want to see stability within the Fed, but is it okay for a Fed governor or a chairman to change their mind on a particular policy?
It's more than okay, it's essential. Economics is not physics, it's not math. Frankly, most of us that ended up in the economics business, we started like I did as a math major. It was too hard. So we ended up in economics. In economics, what we need to do is focus the left of the decimal point, not to the right of the decimal point. We need to focus on the big things, and if mistakes are made, central bankers, economic policymakers need to correct them fast. The real mistakes, the mistakes that cause inflation to be persistent, to undermine hardworking American standard of living, and when those mistakes go on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Senator Reed.
Mr. Chairman, before we start the next question, I ask that we have entered into the record the U.S. Office of Government Ethics certification, which requires that all nominees disclose all of their assets, and showing that Mr. Warsh is out of compliance and that he has not met the ethics requirements.
Without objection, I will note, however, that what has been clearly articulated is that he will, according to his agreement with OGE, do what many others have done as well within 90 days, be not only in compliance, but to divest himself from many assets that are in question.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask? I don't think we've had other nominees who are out of compliance and not disclosing at the time they come before the hearing.
Not in this committee, that's correct.
Not in this committee.
Before we, here's what we're not gonna do.
Fair enough.
We're not gonna have two chairmen, for sure.
Just ask.
Number one. Number two, what we're also not gonna do is debate what we're putting into the record. And finally, what we are going to do is have a conversation about America's economy. And frankly, we all deserve the opportunity to ask our questions. We don't get to figure out the answer.
Look no further than the 2020 Porsche 911. With less than 10,000 miles on the odometer, this vehicle stands out from the rest. Enjoy a view of this exquisitely engineered Porsche 911.
And a way to help us expedite getting back on track. Senator Reed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Walsh. Until you dispose of all the assets you've identified to the Office of Government Ethics, you will not be in compliance. Is that correct?
My understanding is that a signed ethics agreement provides duties and responsibilities on me and duties and responsibilities on the government, and that's what the nature of the ethics agreement is.
You have an agreement that within 90 days you will dispose of all your assets. Is that correct?
Senator, I have an agreement within 90 days so that there is no appearance of anything inappropriate. I would divest all of my assets, the majority of which before sworn in. What I've disclosed, Senator, is all the information that is mine to disclose. I've shared all information about assets that I control and that I can share, which I did much to the satisfaction of the Government Ethics Office.
Excuse me. What you said is that you will take the oath if confirm, as chairman, with assets that have already been identified because of potential conflicts of interest. Will you agree to not take the oath until you have fully disposed all the assets that you've been identified?
Senator, I'll agree to take the oath pursuant to the terms of the ethics agreement that I struck with the Office of Government Ethics. I don't think anyone can do more than that other than me. I've agreed to divest even more assets, so that I will have virtually no financial assets.
The divestiture is totally up to you. You
Okay,
can
well, we took
select
shorts,
the
so we'll see if this moves lower.
Is that correct? And then still be sworn in as chair.
The divestiture is up to the agreement that I struck with the Office of Government Ethics.
Who makes the decision as to what assets are divested, you or the Office of Government Ethics?
Both of us, that's
Should
why
have
it's
took
an
it
agreement.
sooner, but it is what it is.
I must commend you on the way you.
I gotta go to class, bros.
Around questions and not answers.
Sorry, I'm not even showing my screen.
Unfortunately, it's not a good
We took
skill.
take profit one right here. This is kind of a shitty trade, but we'll see if we move lower. I gotta go to class, so we'll see what happens.
You haven't given it to the rank.
But yeah, W on the day, stops at break even. We'll see if we can move lower towards these 4-hour draws. If not, it is what it is. We made a little money today, so literally cannot be upset at anything. But yeah, I'll see